Je déclare ouverte.
أعلن افتتاح الجلسة العامة الأولى للدورة الأولى للجنة التحضيرية للمؤتمر الدولي الرابع لتمويل التنمية.
Excellence, Madame
أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، سيدتي نائبة الأمين العام السيدة أمينة محمد، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة الوزراء والوزيرات، سيداتي وسادتي، أود أن أنتهز هذه الفرصة كي أرحب بكل المشاركين والمشاركات في هذه الدورة الأولى للجنة التحضيرية للمؤتمر الدولي الرابع لتمويل التنمية التي تنظم في هذه المدينة الجميلة مدينة أديس أبيبا. وأشكر إثيوبيا حكومة وشعبا على احتضان هذه الدورة. قبل أن ننتقل إلى الجزء الافتتاحي، أدعو اللجنة التحضيرية إلى النظر في البند الثاني من جدول الأعمال والمعنون انتخاب أعضاء المكتب، وذلك من أجل انتخاب نواب الرئيس. لعل الوفود قد تتذكر بأنه خلال الدورة التنظيمية في 23 من فبراير شباط 2024 انتخبت اللجنة صاحبة المعالي السيدة أنا بولا زكرياس وأنا شخصيا كرئيسين مشاركين في اللجنة، وأخطر المكتب بعدها بأن صاحبة المعالي السيدة بولا زكرياس قد أتمت ولايتها في نيويورك، وأن البرتغال قد عين صاحب المعالي السيد روي فيناس ممثلا دائما للبرتغال لدى منظمة الأمم المتحدة في نيويورك كي ينهي ولاية الرئيسة المشاركة في اللجنة التحضيرية. هل لي أن أعتبر أن اللجنة تود انتخاب صاحب المعالي السيد روي فيناس من البرتغال كرئيس مشارك في اللجنة التحضيرية للمؤتمر الدولي الرابع لتمويل التنمية. لا أرى اعتراضا، تقرر ذلك. وهنئ صاحب المعالي سعادة السفير فيناس على انتخابه رئيسا مشاركا، وأدعوه إلى اعتلاء المنصة.
Excellence, Madame la Vice.
سيدتي نائبة الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة الوزراء والوزيرات، السيدات والسادة المشاركين والمشاركات، يسرنا أن نستقبلكم وأن نرحب بكم في أديس أبيبا في إثيوبيا لهذه الدورة الأولى للجنة التحضيرية للمؤتمر الدولي الرابع لتمويل التنمية. نود بهذه المناسبة أن نعرب عن بالغ امتناننا لحكومة إثيوبيا على حفاوة الاستقبال في هذا المكان الرمزي. فقبل 9 سنوات تقريبا مدينة أديس أبيبا شهدت اعتماد برنامج عمل أديس أبيبا خلال المؤتمر الدولي الثالث لتمويل التنمية، ومنذ إذن تغير الظرف العالمي تغييرا كبيرا، وشهدنا أزمات صحية واضطرابات مناخية وزيادة للفوارق الاقتصادية، وهذه التحديات جميعها تذكرنا بمدى أهمية توفير التمويل المناسب والمبتكر لتحقيق التنمية المستدامة. فلا يكفي أن نقطع فقط وعودا بالتغيير، بل علينا الآن أن نتخذ خطوات عملية وأن نضافر من جهودنا. نود كذلك أن نشيد بمكتب اللجنة التحضيرية على العمل الجبار الذي اطلع به في إعداد خطة العمل وتيسير مشاركة سياسية من المستوى الرفيع. إن مساهمة المكتب كانت ضرورية من أجل وضع خارطة الطريق تحضيرا لهذا المؤتمر الرابع الذي سينظم في إسبانيا في 2025. نرحب كذلك بالمساهمات المالية المعتبرة لبعض الدول الأعضاء بما مكن تنظيم هذه الدورة وإتاحة مشاركة عدد كبير من الوفود. من خلال هذه العملية التحضيرية أمامنا فرصة من أجل إعادة النظر في نمط تفكيرنا ذات التنمية المستدامة، فبتضافر جهودنا وتبادل معارفنا وبالعمل معا على نحو مبتكر بإمكاننا أن نرسي مستقبلا
Notre détermination est plus grande.
كبيرة.
Still, we are acutely aware that despite our efforts to mobilize the financing necessary to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the financing gap continues to widen. It is high time to act with audacity and ambition. Let us make this first session of the 4th International a starting point. Let it take us to a historic turning point which will transform words into actions and see promises become sustainable achievements. The agenda for the next 5 days has been designed with a view to lending momentum to the preparatory process for the FfD4. It is underpinned by high-level political ambition and in-depth analysis. We're looking to stimulate political will from the get-go. If we do so, we'll be able to pave the way for an ambitious result which will have tangible repercussions for all. We are convinced that this week will bring us closer to an ambitious, action-orientated and politically achievable outcome at FfD4. I thank you. I now invite my counterpart, His Excellency Mr. Rui Vinas, to deliver an opening address. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Good morning, Madam Deputy Secretary General, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the vote of confidence deposited in me, as in my predecessor, Ambassador Ana Paula Zacarias, before me. I echo, of course, the words of my fellow co-chair, Ambassador Zefrin Marinatanga. Allow me to add a few messages at the start of this preparatory process. 2015 was a good year for multilateralism, delivering on a holy trinity of sorts for sustainable development: Addis Ababa Action Agenda, Agenda 2030, and the Paris Agreement. The world has changed much since then, and trust in multilateralism has dwindled in the process as a result of multiple and interlinked crises affecting our collective ability to achieve the SDGs. We need to recover the momentum. FfD4 is key to set us back on track. In Spain, we need to agree on commitments and action that deliver on the transformational change we seek. The reform of the international financial architecture is part of this effort. Preserving a holistic approach to the FFD's agenda with the involvement of all relevant actors is fundamental, in line with the spirit of Monterrey. In this regard, we welcome the diverse sets of delegates present at this session, from member states to IFIs, MDBs, international organizations, and NGOs, among others. We must work together to overcome our common challenges in Seville, and so doing contribute to recover trust in multilateralism. To that end, I would like to make the following pragmatic appeal, if I may. After taking stock, let us look beyond the challenges and gaps and focus on identifying and pushing forward ambitious and politically feasible solutions. In this vein, let us also work to connect the dots between discussions on FfD, from the UN to G20, and the Bretton Woods institutions, as well as key initiatives such as the SDG stimulus, the Bridgetown Initiative, and the 4P. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. Rather, we need to make it spin faster and better in alignment with the SDGs. Indeed, our purpose is not to rewrite Addis, but to accelerate the implementation of its unfulfilled elements, also offering solutions to new challenges that have emerged since 2015. We will promote an inclusive, balanced, and forward-looking process, as well as a trusting environment to that effect. We count on the support of Mexico, Nepal, Norway, and Zambia as co-facilitators. We count on yours to make this a successful journey until the summer of 2025, from paper to people, leaving no one behind. I thank you.
Je remercie, Monsieur.
I thank Ambassador Vinhes. And now I invite the committee to hear a pre-recorded video statement from the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres. Please play the video.
Distinguished delegates, 9 years ago, world leaders met in Addis Ababa and agreed on a transformative agenda committing public and private actors to align investment and policies with sustainable development. Yet, despite progress, we must face facts. Many commitments remain unfulfilled. Meanwhile, the world is facing seismic shocks that make financing challenges harder to solve. On the other hand, geopolitical divisions undermine collective action. Faced with sky-high debt burdens and cost of capital, developing countries have limited prospects of financing the Sustainable Development Goals. The Fourth International Conference on Financing for Development provides a unique opportunity to tackle these challenges head-on. It opens the door for world leaders to adopt ambitious reforms to deliver affordable, long-term financing at scale and deliver the SDG stimulus. And it presents a unique opportunity to reform an international financial system that is outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair, from the tax and debt architecture to the system of public development banks, to trade and investment rules, to the financial safety net and global governance. Your process has a unique mandate to look at all these pieces of the puzzle in a holistic manner and through the prism of the 2030 Agenda. We will need the best ideas to inform discussions and maximum political will to act. And so, I welcome the initiative of the Government of Spain to convene a high-level commission of experts on financing for development. I count on all of you to move forward with the determination to rescue the 2030 Agenda, and together we can deliver not only a financial system, but a world that is more just, equitable, and sustainable. Thank you.
Je remercie.
I thank the Secretary General of the United Nations, and I now invite the committee to listen to a pre-recorded video statement by the President of the Government of Spain, His Excellency Pedro Sanchez, who is speaking in his capacity as a representative of the host country of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. Please play the video.
Estimado Secretario General,
Distinguished Secretary General Antonio, distinguished Deputy Secretary General, distinguished ministers, representatives, thank you for being in Addis Ababa. I also wish to thank the government of Ethiopia for hosting this important preparatory session. Today, we together embark upon our journey towards the 4th Conferencing on Financing for Development. Almost a decade ago, we reached 2 major milestones as an international community. First of all, we agreed upon the Sustainable Development Goals, and we also agreed upon how to equip ourselves with the means to make these Addis Ababa Action Agenda goals a reality. Since then, many unpredictable things have come to pass. We couldn't foresee them, and today we are facing new Herculean challenges to achieve these Sustainable Development Goals, and in order to address the climate crisis besetting humanity. But we also have a great opportunity, a historic opportunity, to reform international financial architecture and to better meet the needs of all countries and also of our people. For my country, Spain, it is an honor to be in a position to host the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, an honor that we share with an extraordinary city, that is Seville. That was the city chosen to host the conference in 2025. I know that the journey that we're embarking upon today and that will take us to Seville will not be an easy one, but I also know that we're all aware of the importance of and of the urgent nature of our work. So it is vital that we once again embrace the spirit of commitment of 2015. We need to be brave and innovative. Spain is committed to working on 3 fronts that will all be pivotal. First, we will work to ensure that the negotiation process is inclusive and transparent, to ensure that it builds bridges and ensures that all voices are heard. Secondly, we will guarantee the participation of civil society and also of the private sector. Finally, we wish to come up with innovative and robust proposals. With that in mind, I thank the Secretary General for his support for the initiative to create a high-level commission of experts. The work of this session will consequently define the ambition of the 2025 conference. With that in mind, I encourage you to bring to the table the necessary political will so that in Spain we achieve a result commensurate with today's challenges. We have a year to achieve our goal. The time is now. Thank you.
Je remercie son...
I thank His Excellency the President of the Government of Spain. And now I give the floor to His Excellency the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, His Excellency Taye Atske Selassie Amde.
Your Excellency, Madam Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Ahmed Shide, Minister of Finance of Ethiopia, Your Excellency Calver Gadide, Executive Secretary of the United Nations Commission for Africa, my good friend Under Secretary General Ridwan, honorable ministers, distinguished co-chairs and participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you all to Addis Ababa to participate in the first preparatory session of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. After successfully hosting the 3rd International Conference on Financing for Development in 2015, Ethiopia is honored to host this first prep session. I thank the co-facilitators for their leadership, as well as UNDESA and UNECA for collaborating with Ethiopia in preparing this meeting. When the Addis Ababa Action Agenda was adopted as a means of implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, it raised enormous expectation and enthusiasm. Regrettably, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda is not being fully implemented as anticipated. We convene today to take stock of its achievements and gaps, to revitalize our commitment and find innovative ways to implement the pledge we made a decade ago. It is therefore pertinent and timely to chart out a more pragmatic and ambitious approach in view of the multiple challenges we face globally. Excellencies, poverty and hunger are on the rise. Geopolitical tensions are threatening global peace and security, consequently so undermining multilateralism. The COVID-19 pandemic has aggravated the debt crisis in most developing countries and has led to a decline in government revenues. The extreme impacts of climate change are eroding development gains in the most vulnerable countries. Many developing countries lack financial resources to effectively respond and mitigate the effects of climate change. Existing financial mechanisms such as development aid and climate funds are inadequate, fragmented, unresponsive to the special needs of developing countries. In evaluating the reasons for failure to deliver on the promise of the Sustainable Development Agenda, it is fitting to mention the words of the UN Secretary General, who warned us that without massive investment, our vision of creating a world free of poverty would remain elusive. This conference, therefore, provides an opportunity for global reflection towards rescuing the 2030 Agenda by advocating for the full implementation of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. Excellencies, as we commence the preparation for the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in Spain next year, it is incumbent upon us to identify the gaps in the implementation of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. This process should lead to the adoption of a transformative and ambitious financial framework to achieve the SDGs as we promised and agreed in 2015. In our view, the outcome in Spain should be anchored on 5 major points. First, we must recognize that there are sufficient financial resources globally to meet the 2030 Agenda. What is lacking is political will and commitment to deliver the necessary funds. The international community should thus galvanize the collective will to channel and deliver this much-needed funds. Second, the global financial architecture must be reformed to be more inclusive and equitable. Developed countries should advocate for and support reforms in international financial institutions to ensure that their policies better address the needs of developing countries. Third, we must revamp efforts to combat illicit financial flows, and we should also support endeavors to enhance international tax cooperation. Fourth, developed countries should enhance their contribution to climate finance, including by operationalizing the loss and damage funding mechanism. These financial resources should be directed towards building resilient infrastructure, enhancing social protection system, and supporting agriculture and energy development projects to address both immediate needs and long-term development goals. Fifth, debt relief initiatives should be scaled up both at multilateral and bilateral frameworks to solve unsustainable debt burden and unlock investment to SDG-related projects. In this regard, we expect concrete commitment from lending countries and institutions. In Ethiopia, we allocate more than 60% of the annual budget to SDGs. Consistent with our position of maximizing domestic resource mobilization, we are implementing national flag projects in energy, social protection, tourism, digital technologies, and urban development sectors. Ethiopia is also implementing a Green Legacy initiative pioneered by His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, in which close to 40 billion seedlings are planted to curb the impacts of climate change, promote food security, and create jobs. Such national development initiatives should be supported by enabling international financial frameworks. While Ethiopia stands ready to share its experience, the global financial institutions and developed countries should provide concrete support to such national efforts. Finally, let me take this opportunity to invite all of you to visit some of the sites in Addis Ababa that demonstrates how local innovative financing initiatives have enabled us to realize successful projects in Ethiopia. Welcome again. Thank you.
Je remercie
I thank His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia. I now give the floor to the Minister of Finance of Ethiopia, His Excellency Ahmed Shide.
Excellency Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Ambassador Taye Atske-Selassie, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Mr. Clever Gatete, Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, Excellencies, Ministers, State Ministers, representatives of member countries, co-chairs of the Preparatory Committee, distinguished guests, honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen, or protocol observers. It is with great honor and privilege that I welcome you to the first preparatory session of the fourth Financing for Development Conference here in the vibrant and historic city of Addis Ababa. Please allow me to extend my appreciation to each one of you who have traveled from across the world to participate in this important gathering. This preparatory meeting is crucial in shaping our collective journey toward sustainable development and the future. Thank you. It is telling us we need not only more energy, but more connectivity of energy. Please allow me to extend my appreciation to each one of you who have traveled from across the world to participate in this important gathering. This preparatory meeting is crucial in shaping our collective journey toward sustainable development and the future of development financing. We are gathered today from every corner of the globe, each playing a diverse but indispensable role in critically reviewing our achievements and gaps and in devising sustainable ways to finance our development. We are united by a shared vision, a vision of a world where every individual, regardless of their background or circumstance, has the opportunity to thrive and prosper. Financing for development is not merely a financial endeavor. It is a commitment to justice, equity, and a well-being of all humanity. Ethiopia, a nation rich in cultural heritage and millennia of civilizational history, is proud to host this significant event. Our country stands as a testament to resilience and determination, striving to overcome challenges and forge a bright future for our people. We embark on an ambitious journey of economic transformation, aiming to lift millions out of poverty, enhance infrastructure, improve education, and ensure health care for all. 9 years ago, in 2015, Addis Ababa saw the adoption of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda during the third Financing for Development Conference. This agenda laid the foundation for a new era of global cooperation and ambition in financing development. It underscored the need for a comprehensive, holistic, and transformative approach to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Central to Addis Ababa Action Agenda is the recognition that each country bears primary responsibility for its social and economic development, supported by an enabling international economic environment. Reflecting on our progress, significant stride has been made in poverty reduction, education, health, sustainable energy, and gender equality. In response to Agenda 2030 and our commitment to combat climate change, Ethiopia has made substantial achievements in restoring millions of hectares of degraded landscapes through initiatives such as the Green Legacy Initiative. This is a champion initiative by the Prime Minister, which is soliciting millions of Ethiopians every year in these collective actions by Ethiopians. This initiative aims to combat environmental degradation, promote reforestation, and enhance climate resilience. We have managed to increase our national forest cover to 23.6% from 14.7% in 2014. Our path towards climate resilient and green economic development focuses on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, promoting renewable energy sources like hydroelectric, wind and solar power, and fostering sustainable agricultural practices. These efforts not only reduce our carbon footprint, but also provide sustainable and reliable energy to our communities. Our policies support climate-smart agriculture, enhancing food security, and mitigating climate change impact through sustainable farming practice. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, despite our achievement, developing countries like Ethiopia continue to face significant financing gaps, which affect hard-won progress and are exacerbated by recent global crises such as the COVID-19 pandemic, geopolitical conflict, and economic instabilities. The escalating debt burden is particularly concerning, with many countries allocating more resources to debt services rather than investing in basic social services. Our discussions in the coming days should serve as a reflection on past effort, but should also lay out bold actions to ensure the realization of Sustainable Development Goals. We should critically examine the challenges and implement coordinated actions to accelerate the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. In response to these challenges, the Financing for Development agenda must adapt and evolve. We must advocate for comprehensive reform of the international financial architecture, including improving global economic governance, enhancing debt relief measures, and reducing cost of sovereign borrowing. We must explore and implement innovative financing solutions to mobilize resources effectively, including public-private partnerships. Mobilizing private investment and strengthening multilateral development banks are also important steps. Innovating climate financing mechanisms such as debt for climate swaps, carbon trading, and green bonds should be promoted and extensively used. Excellencies, ladies and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on discussions in these days ahead, I urge each one of you to contribute your expertise, ideas, and passion so that we collectively build our collective intelligence to address the collective challenge towards inclusive, equitable, and sustainable financing. Let us reaffirm our commitment to the principles of Addis Ababa Action Agenda and collaborate towards a world where sustainable development leaves no one behind. Through collective efforts, we can achieve the ambitious goals set before us, creating a fair, just, and prosperous world for all. Let us approach this journey with determination and hope, knowing that today's effort will shape a brighter, inclusive tomorrow. Finally, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the Secretariat for convening us here. Welcome to Addis Ababa, and welcome to the preparatory session of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. Thank you. I wish you all fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency, the Minister of Finance of Ethiopia, and now I give the floor to the Under-Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs and Secretary General of the Conference, Mr. Li Junhua.
Your Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Your Honorable Minister of Finance of Ethiopia, Madam the Deputy Secretary General, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. At the outset, please allow me to begin by extending my heartfelt appreciation to the Ethiopian government for hosting this first substantive session of the Preparatory Committee for the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. Almost a decade after the world leaders agreed to Addis Ababa Action Agenda, our pursuit of a new global financing framework must start with a stake of what we have achieved since 2015. It is therefore fitting that we begin our discussion here in Ethiopia in Addis again. Excellencies, our assessment is a sober one. Amidst a global sustainable development crisis, the 2024 Financing for Sustainable Development report, published earlier this year, found the financing gaps are large and growing. The financing divide between the developed and the developing countries has not been bridged. Developing countries are faced with a high debt burden and the high cost of the capital. Concessional financing falls short of the commitment and need. Billions of dollars are still lost annually from the tax avoidance and evasion. At the same time, fossil fuel subsidies remain in trading. We find ourselves at the crossroads. If we don't change course on financing, the 2030 targets will not be met. FfD4 is perhaps our last chance to transform the financing and deliver on the promises of the 2030 agenda in all the countries and for all people. Excellencies, dear colleagues, let me say a few words on how we could deliver on this promise and the steps we needed to take down to the road to Spain next summer. This first substantive session of the Preparatory Committee for FfD4 provides the opportunity to take stock of the progress made so far, to learn lessons from both successes and the failures, and to identify the gaps we still have in implementation of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. One outcome of this stocktake could be a to-do list. We can outline those areas where we need to deepen our analysis and our dialogues. This will identify solutions that are ambitious enough to meet the challenges we face, and also that help to reach the political consensus. There will be several opportunities in the last quarter of the year where these substantive exchanges can take place. We will have an intersessional multi-stakeholder hearing at the end of October, where we look forward to hearing a wide range of the perspectives from civil society, academics, and other non-stakeholders. The second session of the Preparatory Committee in December 2024 will be another opportunity to discuss the substantive elements of the FfD4. Excellencies, dear colleagues, as we proceed with the preparatory process, please rest assured that my department, UNDESA, is committed to supporting a substantive and inclusive preparatory process with a broad participation from all member states and all relevant stakeholders, including by civil society, other experts and academics, and the private sector. We look forward to working with all of you to deliver a stronger outcome that can accelerate the implementation of the SDGs and the climate objectives, and also to address the needs of all countries. I thank you.
Je remercie.
I thank the Secretary General of the conference. And I now invite the Preparatory Committee to resume its consideration of item 2 of its agenda, entitled Election of Officers, to proceed to the election of vice chairs and the designation of the rapporteur. Pursuant to General Assembly Resolution 78/231, the Bureau of the Preparatory Committee shall consist of 3 members of each regional group. At its organizational meeting on 23rd February 2024, the Preparatory Committee was informed of the internal arrangements in place for the group of Asia-Pacific states, whereby members of the Bureau from the regional group have agreed to an informal rotation, according to which they will resign in favor of another member after a designated period. Accordingly, I've been informed that Pakistan has relinquished its position as vice chair in favor of China. The Preparatory Committee will therefore proceed to the election of China to complete the remaining term following the resignation of Pakistan. May I take it that the committee wishes to elect China as Vice Chair of the Preparatory Committee to complete the remaining term of Pakistan?
Je n'entends pas.
I hear no objection. It is so decided. I now invite the Preparatory Committee to turn to the designation of the rapporteur from among the vice chairs. I have been informed that Mr. Rodolfo Reta Haddad of Mexico has been nominated for the position of rapporteur of the Preparatory Committee. May I take it that the Preparatory Committee wishes to designate Mr. Rodolfo Reta Haddad of Mexico as rapporteur?
Je n'entends pas d'objection.
I hear no objection. It is so decided.
Au nom
On behalf of my co-chair and myself, I congratulate China on its election to the Bureau and Mr. Rodolfo Reta Haddad of Mexico on his designation as rapporteur. And I now give the floor to my co-chair, Ambassador Rui Viñas, to chair the following part of the program.
I thank you, Ambassador Co-Chair. Before we move into the organizational matters, allow me just to take this opportunity to thank again to the government of Ethiopia for organizing this conference and for the warm hospitality. I hope that the good spirit of others can guide us again in this session. I now invite the Preparatory Committee to begin its consideration of Agenda Item 3, entitled Adoption of the Agenda and Other Organizational Matters. Delegations would recall that the Preparatory Committee adopted its agenda as contained in document A/conf.227/2024/PC/1 at its organizational session on 23rd February 2024. I invite the committee to now turn its attention to the proposed organization of work of the first session, which was circulated to all delegations as document A/227/2024/PC/CRP.1/Rev1. Are there any comments on the proposed organization of work? I see none. May I take that the Preparatory Committee approves the proposed organization of work for its first session as contained in the document, on the understanding that further adjustments will be made as warranted during the course of session. I hear no objection. It is so decided. I now invite the Preparatory Committee to turn to draft decision A/227/2024/PC/L3, entitled Dates of the Intersessional Multi-Stakeholder Hearing at the second session of the Preparatory Committee, which we have submitted in our capacity as co-chairs. Is there any comment on the draft decision? I see none. May I take that the Preparatory Committee wishes to adopt the referred document? I hear no objection. It is so decided. Are there any comments after the adoption of the decision? I see none. Thank you. I now invite the Preparatory Committee to begin its consideration of sub-item A of Agenda Item 4, preparations for the conference, organizational and procedural preparations, to consider draft decision A/conf.227/2024/PC/L2, entitled Provisional Agenda of the Fourth International Conference on Financing for Development, which we have submitted in our capacity as co-chairs. Before proceeding to the consideration of document L2, I should like to make the following oral revision, which is editorial in nature. Under item 10 of the provisional agenda contained in the annex before the word outcome document, add the words adoption of the and delete the letter S in the brackets at the end of the word document. Item 10 would read, adoption of the outcome document of the conference. Are there any comments on the draft decision orally revised? I see none. So may I take that the Preparatory Committee wishes to adopt the draft decision as revised? I hear no objection. It is so decided. Are there any comments after the adoption of the decision? I see none, so this concludes the opening segment. The Preparatory Committee will begin its ministerial scene setter after a brief pause to allow the podium to be rearranged. Please remain seated. Thank you very much.